welcome to another edition of A Little Perspective, Mom's Edition. And this is a super special edition because these are all parents of children with dwarfism and actually achondroplasia specifically. So Brooke, Aren, and Robyn are all Mississippi parents, and they all have children with achondroplasia dwarfism. And we are going to spend this evening talking a little bit about some of the complications that they've faced and the struggles that they've had to overcome because of their diagnoses. All three women are average height. 80% of little people are born to children to parents of average height. And so I thought it was really a great opportunity for us to kind of put a little bit of education out there, a little bit of awareness, and get some of this information out. So thank you, ladies, for joining me today. I'm super excited to have you. I'm going to ask each of you to just tell us a little bit about yourself. So why don't we start with Brooke, one of my best friends. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. My name is Brooke Wyatt. I live in Madison, Mississippi, and I am mom to a 7.5-year-old little boy with achondroplasia dwarfism.
Awesome. Miss Aren, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Aren Quave, and I'm from the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I have a 1-year-old with achondroplasia. His name is Jeffrey. My husband is from Biloxi, and I'm from Bay St. Louis. And this is our first child.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Miss Robyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Robyn Holder, and I am a teacher. I have a 26-year-old, 21-year-old daughter. Both daughters are average height, as am I. Well, we're also actually kind of short, but still average. And my youngest daughter, Lily, is going to be 6 next month, and she has achondroplasia, and she is just the light of my life.
That's awesome. So I obviously know all three of these women, and they're all amazing warrior mamas. You know, when you have a child with any kind of special need, then you have to be able to speak up for them and really stand up for them. And I see all three of these ladies do that daily. So some of the, conversation is going to be kind of about that and the situations that they have to work through because of that. So Brooke, why don't you tell us a little bit about the process of getting B diagnosed? Some parents find out in utero, some find at birth, and your situation is a little bit unique from a lot that I have heard.
Yeah, and you can stop me if I give you too much information, but B wasn't diagnosed with achondroplasia until he was nearly 8 months old. And I think that's a little late in the game from what I've heard from most other parents. When I was pregnant, I had the normal anatomy scan ultrasound at 20 weeks, and everything looked good. I have a background in classical ballet. And so I said, does the baby have long thigh bones? Because I was just thinking of a long-legged dancer that could come into the studio, and the ultrasound tech said, no, they're measuring just fine, but they're really not long. You're not going to have a long-legged baby. But there was some question about kidneys, and they wanted us to come back in 5 weeks. So 25 weeks, I had another scan. Again, asked the same thing, how those thigh bones looking, and not thinking that there could be any chance of dwarfism. I didn't know any little people. It wasn't really anything in my consciousness when I was pregnant to think about or ask about, but I guess just sort of a vain ballet dancer mentality taking over. And again, she said, they're measuring just fine. They're not long, but they're fine. This is not a long-legged child. So B was born, and I was planning on a home birth, but he was born in hospital, and everything was fine at birth. But about 24 hours after birth, he was breathing a little fast, and I kept thinking, why is this nurse coming in here and watching my baby breathe? I mean, doesn't she know I'm a new mom and I'm doing that? And she said, you know, he's breathing fast, so we're going to take him to the special care ward. And I freaked out and got out of bed for the first time and running behind him being carted away. And the doctor on call, it's a very small college town, and the doctor on call actually had 2 patients with achondroplasia, but he didn't want to get out of bed. So he didn't come and look at B, and he would have seen him immediately that B had achondroplasia, I believe. But he literally phoned it in, and they started treating him with penicillin as if he had pneumonia. So it was probably 12 or 18 hours later before we ever saw a doctor, before a doctor ever put hands on B or talked to us, and they were just injecting him with penicillin as if he might have pneumonia. And when his pediatrician finally arrived, I had lots of questions, and she said, if you question my authority again, I'm going to take this child from your custody. You can't have your child if you don't follow my medical treatment. And so, you know, at that point, my mode was just to get out of the hospital because my baby was doing fine as far as I was concerned, and take care of him at home. We get to those first well checks in the pediatrician's office, and she looks at me and she goes, "You're not tall, and neither is his father. Who in your family is over 6 foot tall? This baby's a gunner. He's doing great. He looks perfect. He's going to be well over 6 foot tall." And, you know, kind of presses us a lot about this, like, who's tall? Like, why is this baby going to be so big? And so, you know, we're like, you know, whatever. And then we come back for a 2-month checkup. And again, she says he's perfect, but this time she has a student with her. And apparently when they stepped out into the hall, the student said, "There's nothing in this chart that the baby has achondroplasia." It was a student that recognized that he was a little person. And she came back into the room all panicked and ripping the blanket off of B and wanting to look at his arms and asking me, does he always hold his arms close to his body like this? And then she said, who in your family is of short stature? And I was clueless, and I didn't know that she meant a little person, a person with dwarfism. So I said, "Oh, my mom." And she was like, "How could you not tell me this?" And then we found, she said, "What do you mean your mom?" I said, "Oh, my mom's like 5'2". She's like, she's short, you know? And she's like, "That's not what I mean." And she said, "You know, don't worry, your baby will be cognitively fine." And she's got this panicked look on her face, and she just keeps holding her arm up, and she just keeps like squashing the air down. She goes, he'll just be. And she does that a whole bunch of times, and she's all freaked out. And she writes the word achondroplasia on the paper, and we leave the doctor. We'd been there for hours, and it was really scary, and we didn't have any answers. And when I get in the car, I take my phone and I Google achondroplasia. And the first thing I see is a black and white photo of a naked baby with bars over his eyes. And maybe it was just the way they presented it, but it looked really, you know, this baby did not look anything in my mind like my baby did. It looked very out of the norm, very different. And, you know, by this time she's told me my baby had kidney problems, pneumonia, heart disease. He's going to be 6 foot tall. No, he's a little person. And I don't give her any credibility. It takes another 6 months for us to get in with a geneticist. And that's only because it was a rushed appointment. And in the meantime, there's all these theories being bandied about. He's got metabolism problems. He's got chromosomal differences. At one point, I was even accused of neglecting him and starving him. I was told that my breast milk was no good. And it was just kind of a traumatic time. And then we finally got to Dr. Weaver at the skeletal dysplasia clinic. And he was just like, your baby is perfect, but he has achondroplasia. and, you know, just treat him like you would anybody else, and we'll kind of guide you and help you get in with any specialists you need. And that's that. So it was a little bit traumatic, I would say. The good thing about the diagnosis was I got to know my child without a diagnosis. And so, you know, I didn't think he had any limitations from the beginning.
Yeah, I've heard that story a couple of times, and it still is so, it's so jarring. It's yeah, it just shows why we have to work so hard to be advocates for our babies. And now he's perfect. Like, he's wonderful. He's energetic and he is nonstop and he's brilliant. And you know, you have to sew his pants up and you have stools, and, you know, but and
There's a lot of sewing machines in my life, you know.
One with a particularly fancy like carpet bag carrier.
Yes.
You know, and pregnancy is traumatic enough. Like, it's hard enough. You know, you have the hormones, you have the first time mom, you have the, and you know, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I have this child, and then you have the love. It's just all over the place. And then to be, you know, told, to be threatened to have your child taken away from you is unimaginable. And then just for trying to find out what's going on, and then, you know, just the roller coaster for months and months. It's frustrating for sure. And then, you know,
but I would say that it really helped me step into my role as an advocate for B, because at the end of the day, you know, when we're making medical decisions, whether they're for ourselves or for our children, the buck stops with us. The doctor gets to advise us, and my child is come into the room and let the dog in. You know, and so I learned not to just take a doctor's word with blind faith. I learned to question and make a decision. And I think that was good because he's needed advocacy.
Mm-hmm. Does B want to say hi?
Do you want to say hi to Miss Angela and these other moms? Okay, we're all talking about our kiddos. So if you sit in here, you have to be quiet.
Aren, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your experiences with your sweet little baby and some of the medical complications that he's had, because directly related to his dwarfism.
So I found out that Jeffrey was going to have some sort of skeletal dysplasia about halfway through the pregnancy. And all they could tell us really was that he looked good. It was a non-lethal form of skeletal dysplasia, most likely dwarfism. And we prepared, we ended up going to a different hospital than planned. So we were living in Santa Fe. And so that meant we had to go to the big university hospital in Albuquerque. And I started going there weekly for weekly ultrasounds that lasted hours, and they were great as far as being prepared. There was people waiting for us during the delivery, and that was amazing because there was so much unknown. And I feel so grateful after hearing stories like Brooke's, because, you know, I thought I had it bad, and I knew before we even, you know, got to meet him. So I can't imagine 8 months down the line, you know, having a new diagnosis. So all those moms out there that have that, that's a big one for me. Anyway, so I was induced, and Jeffrey didn't do well throughout the labor. He decelled, which means he kind of his heart rate would go low, and he just wasn't doing well every time I had a contraction, and I wasn't progressing. So they decided to do a really fast C-section because he was down, and he was intubated as soon as they got him out. By the time I recovered, he was already extubated and breathing on his own. That was just from the delivery being hard on him. And, you know, we confirmed the achondroplasia, and everybody was there and great. And we were discharged from the hospital and went back to Santa Fe. And at our second newborn visit, he was 10 days old, and the pediatrician checked his vitals and everything, and his oxygen level was 64. And he was not in any distress. Jonathan and I are both in the medical field. Jonathan is a nurse, and I worked in the ER for 8 years as a tech. So we do have medical background. We know things that we need to look for and stuff for breathing. And I mean, he had no signs of distress. So it was super shocking when we go into the office and he had to be transferred to Albuquerque very swiftly because they didn't know what was going on with him. So we went to Albuquerque, and that's when they diagnosed us with restrictive lung disease, which is a very common side effect, or what would you call it? Complication from achondroplasia. Basically, his lungs are super healthy, but his frame is small and restrictive, and he isn't able to take a deep enough breath. So it makes people that have restrictive lung disease work harder to breathe, and eventually you'll poop out if you don't have supplemental oxygen. So he's been on oxygen from 10 days old, and he's still on it. Restrictive lung disease is kind of a thing that you grow out of, literally, because as you get bigger, your chest gets bigger, you physically get bigger, and you're able to take in more air. So at 5 months old, we were able to wing him off of oxygen during the day, and now he's just on it at night. And we think, you know, as he gets bigger, he probably won't be on it for much longer, which is awesome. Some complications other than restrictive lung disease would be apnea. A lot of little people have apnea or sleep apnea, and that's sort of similar. It can be a different diagnosis for other little kiddos with restrictive lung. Once we got a grasp on all that, he started having seizures at 6 months old. And we don't think that, nobody thinks that that is related to the achondroplasia, but it certainly puts everything into overdrive. Anytime he's sick or anything with the restrictive lung, it's harder for him to recover. And it just makes simple things like a cold for a normal child, average child, he can get over a cold in a week. For him, he had RSV at 4 months old, and he was in the hospital for 2 weeks on a special breathing machine. So it's just complications like that that are really hard and just totally takes the fun out of having a new baby, for sure. But it totally got me ready, just like Brooke said, to be a fierce mom. At 10 days old, I had to advocate for him. They weren't running any tests on him. They were kind of taking their time to figure out what was going on with his breathing. And I had to have a come to Jesus with some of the doctors, and we eventually got the right test done to rule out the scary stuff. And
Wow.
yeah, being a mom is crazy.
For sure, for sure. So he has oxygen at night, or does he have it more than that?
He has it at night now. He's only on a half a liter, which is a very low amount. And achondroplasia children with restrictive lung or apnea usually have to have sleep studies and stuff done yearly. So we have one scheduled later on in the year, and we'll probably see where he stands then. Moving back to the coast was a great thing for him because we don't have any elevation, so that's helping. And of course, I check his oxygen periodically, and I think we're going to be off of it soon, so that's great. The scary thing is the seizures for sure.
Yeah. And he's starting to take some walking progress.
Yeah, he's rocking and rolling. He's ready to go.
Is mom ready?
No, we are not ready.
Oh, goodness. How old is he?
He is 15 months.
Okay. Yeah. So 18 is usually when, the earliest, and then it just depends on the child.
Right.
Maybe 2 or
He's-
so, but
He's still super wobbly and stuff, but he's ready. You can just see it in his face. He's ready to go.
and that's when all the fun begins.
I feel like Jonathan and I both feel like, the beginning of his life was just so stressful and crazy and learning and advocating. And we just want to keep him like a little baby, just a little longer because we didn't get that at first. And, I feel like I was just watching him and making sure nothing else happened because we were oblivious to all the things that came after his birth. We were totally prepared for the birth, but afterwards we were not ready. But that's the great thing about this community is as soon as I got in touch with another LP mom, that's it. I mean, I knew everything I needed to know after that one sit down with her, and we knew what we needed to do.
Yeah, it really is incredible. And I'm new to it, so I don't have the newborn, experience, but just having the connection with Brooke, especially, and her son and Mouse being so close makes such a difference. To make those connections. And then I can't wait for our chapter to be able to meet in person and for our kids to be able to see each other and get together and all that kind of stuff. It's really a wonderful, wonderful community for sure. Well, thank you, Aren, for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Robyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about that precious lily? I know that like the others of us, you've had some struggles with her medical situations. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was an older mom, of course, and so I had the pleasure of having ultrasounds like every week. And I was fortunate that I was in Northern Virginia, and the hospitals are really, really good up there. And they started telling me right around 24 weeks, it looks like your child is going to have achondroplasia. And I was like, oh, no, she's not. She's fine. She's perfect. It's not going to happen. And like all the way up until she was born and delivered, and her older sister was in the delivery room, and she looked at her and I said, what does she look like? And she said, she's beautiful. It was the first thing anyone ever said about her. And then I had a wee meltdown when the genetic staff came in, and, my miracle did not occur. God did not give me this, short little Italian girl like her mama. She has dwarfism. And I was like about to mentally break down because a lot of what, especially people of faith, what I found that my faith, God did come through. God gave me the perfect child for me. And it was me who needed to see that, because she has changed my life in so many incredible ways. And not just mine, but the lives of everyone around me and who sees her. Um, and I've had to kind of slow some of my expectations, because I, like, we all have high expectations, and we want everything just to be perfect for our child. And um, she wasn't meeting milestones like she was supposed to. Um, Other LP kids were meeting all these milestones, and I'm watching on Facebook, and I'm so happy for them. Like, when is Lily going to do that? Why isn't she doing that? What's going on? And then I went to DuPont in Delaware, and the doctors basically shook their fists at me and said, she has a bad case of overprotectivitis, and you need to you need to, like, the bottle needs to go. She's not a baby anymore. So we came home, and it was like boot camp, Lily boot camp. And some other LP moms in our age group, the 2014 to 2016, they knew that I was on the struggle bus and was worried about her. And they all got together without me knowing, and they bought this um, foam gym set that was delivered to my house, because they thought, if she had something like that to practice on that was soft. And that was like, it just touched my heart so much that they didn't really know me aside from Facebook, but they were invested in Lily's growth because we're part of that community. And she did eventually walk, but she was 3. She did eventually talk, but she was 4. She has, and all the things that they told me, all the don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, she can't do that, don't do that. That first year of life, protect her back. That's the most important thing if you want to make sure she grows up to not be in pain or have all these complications. So I think for the first year of life, she was basically held almost constantly. And so she didn't have all those chances to explore, do other things, because we were so frightened, because we never really knew anything aside from what we were reading and researching and what other people said. And I will always ask myself now, is that the reason why she was delayed? I can't answer that question. All I can do is just do the best I can, as from a mom standpoint. And I have had to talk down some doctors and insurance people before, because I was advocating for Lily to get the RSV vaccine, which is so expensive. And finally, after months of the doctors calling the insurance company, I'm calling the insurance company. I told him, if my daughter gets put in the hospital with RSV because you are refusing to pay for it, then I want the names of every person on that committee, because I'm going to sue every one of you. And the next day they approved it. Unfortunately, the next day she was also diagnosed with RSV and put into intensive care. So it was just, it's been a roller coaster. And for me, it's been more of an emotional roller coaster, because, the doctors say that she is a picture perfect example of achondroplasia. Her size is perfect, her strength is perfect, but she's afraid of everything. And we have had to work so hard. This child was afraid of pillows. She was afraid of stuffed animals. She's afraid of bugs. She was afraid of her shadow. If you name it, she was afraid of it, except for the dark. She loves being in the dark. So go figure. But we're still working every day. She's in kindergarten now, and her favorite game to play at recess is duck, because every time someone comes near her outside, she ducks. And she says it, I duck now, and ducks. So that's what she does. She's really afraid, but I've had to let go. I've had to just let go and just let other people who I know care about her, like her teacher teaches across the hall from me. And I know she doesn't let her get away with anything. And she's going to need that kind of tough love. And I'm trying to be tougher. I'm trying. It's hard sometimes because, she's just so cute and she's my last baby. But I don't know, it's been a struggle to accept that she may not do everything that everybody else does in her time. It'll be in my time, but it'll be her time. When she's ready, she'll meet those goals. I just have to be patient.
Yeah. So how wonderful that group sent you that. That's amazing. That is really amazing. And like you said, it just speaks to this community and how wonderful everyone is. That's fantastic. How did you begin the cutting back on the overprotectiveness? How do you start with that?
Well, I called it the Lilybit Boot Camp. I mean, the day we got back from our trip to Delaware, we started boot camp, and it was okay. No more bottles. So we went to Sippy Cup, and it was tough. She's stubborn. She's super stubborn, and it's okay, honey. She wants her way, and everything has to be. Well, go ahead. Go. I'll be there in a moment. And see, I never would have done that before. I would have been like, okay, let me come help you right now. So it was more boot camp for mommy because I had to stop doing everything for her, and it caused a lot of tears.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of tears for her. She cried a lot because she thought the more she cried, of course, these kids are smart, then we would give in. But she learned eventually.
Yeah.
I learned too.
I mean, it's so easy when, especially being an average parent, you know, when you don't know what is normal, what isn't normal, whatever, and you we all parents just want what's best for your children, and so it's really easy to get into that overprotective mode, and it's a very common thing in the community. So I'm sure that was really very hard for you. How does she like kindergarten?
She loves it. She really loves it, and they've done a really good job. Like they cut a desk down to size for her, so she's sitting in a desk just like everybody else. They cut down the legs of the chair. She takes a walker to school with her though, because our school is huge. The hallways are huge, and to go from point A to point B is a lot of walking for her. So when she has to go far distance, she'll take the walker. But other than that, I mean, the kids tend to do annoying things like pat her on the head, and she just doesn't care. I imagine she'll care more about that later.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has kids who are like, oh no, they'll stand in front of her like at PE and say, oh no, I'm protecting her right now. They're protecting her, but they can't pronounce it. So they all want to protect Lily. And it's just, it's cute because this Pass Christiane is a very small community.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the K-8 building right now. So she's going to be with these kids from kindergarten through 12th grade, which is what I wanted for her, because she's going to need an army around her. And I can't always be there, so.
No, you can't. So she has older sisters. So how was the adjustment period for that, for, you know, her being little, for her having these needs, for, you know, you guys having the concerns that come with a baby with achondroplasia?
My oldest daughter, you know, was in grad school and then moved to Atlanta. So she, you know, is the one who comes down on vacation or come to visit, and she just adores Lily, everything about her. My 21-year-old was the one who was in the delivery room with her, and she is fiercely protective. Fiercely protective. If anybody even looks at her funny, she's like, I'm gonna go get him. I was like, no, you're not. It's okay. She just wants to like keep her in a bubble and protect her. But they've totally embraced having a child with achondroplasia in the family, and to them, they treasure her. And my mom and my dad, oh, they're like her fiercest warriors. So it's just, I'm very blessed to have my family nearby.
Yeah, they definitely adore her, and she them for sure.
He knows it.
I'm sure they need a little boot camp too.
Yes. And they have failed boot camp because they're still spoiling the snot out of her. Yes, totally. No.
I can't imagine grandparents ever failing boot camp. I have never experienced that with my parents.
My dad, he's terrible. Like she'll eat like 2 bites of a sandwich. I'm like, oh, so you want a treat? Okay, here you go. Here's some chocolate. Oh, you want something else? Well, oh, ice cream? Yeah, let's get some ice cream. And then 10 minutes later, oh, a chocolate donut? Dad, she's little. But she's spoiled rotten. I know you, Brittany. Go get it. Go get
All
it.
right, ladies. So, Brooke, any parting words for parents who have just found out that they either are going to have or have a child with skeletal dysplasia?
Yeah, I mean, I say first of all, I could see myself or be in all three of these stories. You know, even though you ask very unique questions to each of our situations, I mean, there's a lot of overlap. But you know, I think that you can't bubble wrap your child. You just treat them like you treat everybody else. And honestly, I found that easier to do when he was a baby because I didn't know that he was a little person than I do now, and some of the struggles that we have. Because it's like, oh, you know, this is hard for him. He's different. He can't reach, or the kids pick on him, or whatever. And so, yeah, don't bubble wrap your child. That's my parting advice.
Yeah, and I mean that's hard for, like I said, for all parents. So it's especially hard for children with for parents of children with dwarfism. So, Aren, what do you have any parting advice?
If I were to say anything to a new mom who found out that they might possibly be having a child with dwarfism, as much as I would love for them to relax and just breathe and know that it's all going to be okay at the end, it's hard to do that. But just know that this community is going to guide you through every situation that you need to know, any information that you need. I learn more from moms than I do physicians and specialists and know-it-alls. I mean, the mom community and parent community is, you've got to find your people because it makes your whole life so much better, and it just makes everything feel like it's going to be all right, and people are working with you to figure stuff out. And once I found community, I really felt like a weight was lifted and everything was going to be all right. Because other moms have been through all of this stuff, the same thing, and they know firsthand. And it's just amazing to think what my life would be like if I didn't reach out to this community. I don't know where we would be. I don't know where I would be with myself. And the biggest thing for me to realize was our kiddos definitely need time. They're on their own time schedule. They are going to do things on their own time, and don't rush anything. Just let them do their thing because it's going to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yep, on their own time, in their own way, for sure. That's great.
Yep.
Awesome. Miss Robyn, what parting advice would you leave?
Well, what they said, absolutely, because I made the mistake of over coddling. I know that. Plugging in is definitely important because doctors have said that I probably know more about achondroplasia than they do when I've gone in. And to me, when they say that, that makes me trust them. Because I know that they're going to do their research and they're going to reach out to experts. So be okay when a doctor tells you, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Because a lot of doctors have that arrogant, I know exactly what I'm doing kind of attitude. But when I've seen doctors that have looked at me and said, you know what, I'm not sure, I'm going to reach out to, the experts and get back with you. That to me is very reassuring. And I've heard other people say that they don't like that, but to me, I'm like, you know what? I'm a teacher. If I don't know something, I want somebody who's going to honestly tell me. I'm gonna advocate and find out for you. Um, so those things are important. And I wish someone had told me in the beginning how important it was to do. I knew it was important to do like range of arm and leg massages and things like that when she was little, but no one told me that it would have been a good idea to do face massages, because I think her lax muscles in her neck and her face are a big part of why she has the speech delays that she has. And they say that's not really a, a side type of condition of achondroplasia, but yet a lot of our kids struggle with that. So
Yeah, hypertonia is definitely a big factor for us. And yeah, that affects speech, your ankles and arches and everything. It's crazy.
yeah, so I did all that, except I didn't do the facial massages. I dropped that ball because I didn't know, but I've been made sure to tell every other parent, start doing facial massages with the baby. So you live and learn.
Struggled to swallow,
Mhm.
but we didn't know it, and he struggled to drink from a cup. Honestly, his arms weren't long enough to bring a sippy cup to his face and use it, so we needed a straw cup. But we didn't really know because I exclusively breastfed him, and everybody sort of blamed me for coddling him and saying, you know, like he's just used to the breast. He just uses you as a pacifier. And then we finally realized, no, he needs some help. So yeah, and took him time to figure all those things out too.
That's awesome, Brooke. Jeffrey couldn't breastfeed. His hypertonia was pretty extreme when he was born, and he never could latch. It's crazy what it affects. You don't even think about it. Day-to-day stuff.
Mm-mm.
Well, I mean, it was constant. Like, they talk about newborn cluster feeding, except for he cluster fed for years. It was.
Oh, we don't sleep through the night yet. We wake up to eat. We still wake up to eat a couple times a night.
Yeah.
My coddling was so bad. I did nurse Lily, and she did sleep with me, which I know is a no-no, but she slept like a monkey around my arm. She would wrap her arms and her legs around my arm, and if I so much as moved, she would wake up crying.
I don't think
so
there's
bad.
anything wrong to bed share. I still bed share with B, and co-sleeping was a strategy that we had decided that we were going to do before he was born, really. And we had a team of midwives and doulas and lactation consultants around us that, I mean, honestly, they were what saved me, because they were able to weigh him outside of the doctor's office and say, well, maybe he's not hitting, where they want him to be on the growth chart, but look, he is consistently gaining weight. He's never lost weight, and the first night he was home from the hospital, I tried to put him in the bassinet, and he fussed and fussed and fussed, and his father was like, get that baby in the bed right now. And he was fine, and that's what
Same.
You do what you have to do. Sleep's important.
Oh yeah. I think I would have been a ninny poo poo mama anyway. I was gonna coddle him anyway. So
well, Lily's my youngest, and she being my youngest, I know I can't have any more kids, and my daughters, they're not looking to settle down anytime soon. So it's almost like I'm raising my grandchild. And so that's why she's so freaking spoiled. Yeah, because she gets anything she wants, pretty much. We say no, but then we end up doing it anyway. It's bad. She's a little diva. Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much for offering these personal stories, and then your personal advice. Really, really appreciate it, and definitely hope that this has helped some others who are not really sure what this means for them, because different doctors present it different ways, and it can honestly presented in an extreme where, you know, abortion is even put on the table, and that's so scary and baffling to me when it's obvious that it's not that big of a deal. It's just different. And so thank you for being a part of this conversation and spending your time with us. And I cannot wait to meet in person this year. I'm putting it out there. It's going to happen. And thank you guys again. I love all of you.
Thank you,
Thank
Angela.
you.
I love you too.